Welcome to How Feedback Drives Coaching and Vice Versa. Now, when we think about coaching, we define coaching as an investment, a scheduled continuous investment in people, using their strengths to open up doors where they have opportunities to raise their game. Now, we view feedback as an opportunity to develop self-awareness, and we encourage initially strength-based feedback. Now, let's look at coaching and feedback for a second. What do we typically hear in the workplace? From leaders, we typically hear, as it relates to coaching, I don't have time. I'm really busy. Yet they still find time to do what? Call people into the office and provide feedback. Now, honestly, when we ask people to come into our office, what's the feedback usually provided? Is it strength-based, positive, or is it constructive? So why? First of all, coaching. When we don't have time to coach our people, silence is very loud. Recently, I had a client say, well, where do you start coaching? I said, your top talent. They're the most marketable people on your team. A recruiter's not calling you saying, oh, by the way, sir, we don't want to take your top people. Do you have any low performers you want to dump? Now, I'm adding a little humor to the validity of coaching. See, we're coaching every day. I don't think coaching is a negotiation. I don't think it should be negotiated. See, when you're not spending time because you don't have time, you are silently telling someone to leave the organization. May not be your intention, but nobody in their right mind is going to say, you know, my boss doesn't spend a lot of time with me. He's really happy with my performance. Now, when you combine that with coaching, they are not exclusive from one another. See, when we find time to call people into the office for the constructive stuff, we're sending a message. Coaching and feedback together can be powerful. Exclusive from one another in terms of their delivery can be disastrous. Now, the Positive Coaching Alliance does a study every year where they ask people when their youth sports careers are over, what's the one thing you hated? Number one every year is the drive home with the parents. What do they typically hear? Little Johnny had played really well, and they unload 14 things the kid needs to work on. Now, how does that translate to the workplace? Think about high school or college. Think about that just for a second. Nobody's trained in the acceptance of feedback. Nobody's trained how to seek it and accept it professionally and thoughtfully. See, what happens is when we get called into the office by a boss, we typically go, uh-oh, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Why does he want to talk to me? Why does she want to talk to me? Why? Because that's the behavior and the response we've conditioned as a leadership society. Now people either accept or dismiss our feedback based on whether they agree with it. The goal of feedback is to build perspective. So when we're coaching, ask questions. What are you going to do to engage? What are you going to do to work well with that teammate? What are you going to do to thrill that customer? That builds self-awareness on the part of the people that you're coaching. And when we have activities such as Teach Me or Let's Practice Together, that facilitates ownership and positive change. End your coaching conversations with something that builds ownership and accountability, such as, Lisa, I want you to come in next week with 2 things you did to invest in your fellow teammates. And let's assume that Lisa's being coached to be a more positive teammate or maybe an influential leader. Get a coaching conversation model. These conversations don't need to be longer than 8 to 12 minutes. Now, if we think about feedback strategically, feedback can absolutely explode engagement and the acceptance of coaching. 3 to 1. Call people into the office. 3 times to 1 for the good stuff. Call somebody in and say, Susie, I just want to tell you your last 3 reports have been fantastic. I'm proud of your design skills. You're doing a great job. And oh, by the way, have your boss sitting there. Guess what happens? She leaves. Oh yeah, her coworkers are asking, what happened? When you're sitting down one-on-one with an employee, you're not talking to one person. You're talking to a whole group of people. Use it to your advantage. Use the word opportunity. Lisa, where you have an awesome opportunity to raise your game, stay away, at least initially in the early parts of a coaching relationship, from the words constructive feedback. It ignites a trigger. It puts people into a defensive mode. The word opportunity is the WIFT, what's in it for them. And last, teach your people to seek and reflect when it comes to feedback. Currently, right now, we have someone going through a program that we built called Feedback Progressions. Every week, somebody has to seek feedback. And the reflection part is they can only say thank you upon receiving the feedback. They're not allowed to rebuttal. Let's be honest. When we're in a conversation, we're often thinking about something we want to say while someone is talking, meaning we're not really listening. We're not truly actively listening to our fullest potential. Teaching people to seek feedback, accept it, say thank you, and then reflect upon it and turn it into an action such as, what did I learn from this week's feedback and what am I going to put into action positively based on the feedback I've received, changes their relationship with feedback. Ask us about our progress coaching training system and our F10 feedback system. These two programs actually bring coaching and feedback together. Think about your employees seeking and accepting feedback. Wouldn't that make it easier for leaders to provide it? Think about leaders investing in people's strengths, acknowledging the good things they do, which opens up the doors where they have opportunities to improve. Wouldn't employees be more engaged? The Gallup organization reports something that's awesome. When we lead with strength-based feedback, which can drive coaching, which is coaching, people engage 8 times more than when we get constructive feedback. Check out Progress Coaching and the F10 feedback system.